Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to the eighth inning stretch. I'm AJ. He's Carson. A little bit. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. A little bit, but for good reason. As we're sort of going to be honoring / paying tribute to the late great Willie Mays, who sadly passed away this past week. So obviously, that's. It's more than worth our time to sort of look back and reflect at his career and his legacy and all that good stuff. So if you're watching or listening to this and you're going, what are these guys doing? That's, it's a little different. So, but yeah, you can catch us live every Sunday or thereabouts on YouTube, Twitter, and on demand anytime at linktree/eighth inning stretch. Don't forget to follow us at 8th Inning Pod on Twitter. And for more, including our thrice weekly newsletter /blog, Two Strike Count, which you can subscribe to for free and get it right to your inbox. And our original documentary series, The Book of Baseball, head to 8thinningpod.com and help us continue making the best indie baseball content this side of home plate by supporting the show using the QR code on your screen or at 8thinningpod.com/donate. And if you are watching / listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So we'll get to Willie Mays here in a second, Carson. But first, however, we have our poll results as we do. Oh, and yes, you're not imagining things, everybody. We are back to our quote unquote normal time for the live stream. So. As we've been doing a little bit later lately for various reasons. But anyways, poll results. Carson, we asked our fans which team is the National League team debate. And in a nail biter, the Phillies squeaked it out 29% to the Brewers 28%.
Yeah, how about the Brewers? I mean, I will be the first to say I very much underestimated the Milwaukee Brewers and how good they were going to be without Corbin Burns. They have seemingly gone on a mission to prove me wrong, so that's been fun. But once again, I leave myself questioning, AJ, who is the other that's at 25%?
Yeah, I've been asking myself that myself since I saw since I posted the results to this on the website last night. I mean, all right, let's just look at the National League standings. I mean, there are probably some Braves fans in there, I would imagine. Even though, yeah, sorry, Braves fans, your Braves aren't winning squat this year without Spencer Strider and without Ronald Acuna Jr. Let's see, who else have we got? Yeah, that's wow. I mean, is it possible that all 25% came from Braves fans? Because I'm looking at the National League standings, man, and I'm not seeing a whole lot. I mean, the Cardinals are barely, barely above 500. The Padres are barely above 500. The Diamondbacks are struggling. Wow. The National League standings are kind of depressing. I can't lie.
Yeah, it's very, very top heavy, and then it's just every kind of the Phillies,
very
the Brewers,
top heavy,
and everybody else.
Yeah, very top heavy, very a bit mediocre, actually. Wow, yeah, that's kind of. I mean the American League's not much better. The American League's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams above 500, and then oh no, wait a minute, that's not right. What am I looking at? Yeah, I mean the American League's a little better. Got the Yankees, the Orioles, My Red Sox somehow hanging in there. Guardians, Twins, Royals, Mariners. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know where that 25% came from. It had to come from Braves fans because the rest of this, wow. The rest of the National League is just not very good. So I don't know. But you know what? Good on you guys for voting for the Brewers. Because Carson, you mentioned it. You know, the Brewers, they traded away Corbin Burns. Their longtime manager, Craig Counsell, up and defects to the rival Cubs. And yet somehow still here they are.
Yeah, which is pretty incredible to say the least.
Yeah, it's really impressive. It's really impressive what the Brewers have been able to do this year. So far. So, anyways, yeah, that's the poll results. I mentioned the Book of Baseball earlier. There is a shiny new episode of that coming out on June 28th. So this Friday, yeah. Sorry, I had the thing pulled up here. 1 sec. What is it? Yeah, coming up June 28th. Brand new episode of the Book of Baseball. Episode 3 of Volume 1 of the Book of Baseball, entitled The Summer That Saved Baseball. And yeah, so it's all about after the strike-shortened 1994 season and the canceled World Series, the 1998 home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and how it brought fans back to the ballpark and helped MLB redeem itself sort of in the eyes of fans, even though that led to all the steroid stuff that we didn't know at the time. And Carson, you and I have talked about that before. Obviously you you were not around to witness that in person. But we've talked about that before about the summer of '98 and how the home run race. But I was doing research for this new episode, and I don't know how this happened, but I had completely forgotten that for most of that, because this thing really didn't take off until the summer. But I had completely forgotten that Ken Griffey Jr. right up until the end, right up until sort of about August, Ken Griffey Jr. was right in that thing too. This was a three horse race.
Yeah, Griffey was very much in it and
Yeah.
was very much a part of this until McGwire and Sosa apparently had a pact with each other of like, all right, we're just gonna absolutely start obliterating baseballs and obliterating our bodies with steroids, so that Griffey can't catch us anymore.
Yeah, no, McGwire and Sosa sort of they pulled away, but not until August. So I actually I feel kind of bad that I forgot that Griffey was right in this thing, right, basically right up to the end, right down to the wire. So, and I feel like maybe a lot of other fans have forgotten that too. In my defense, however, that was 1998. That was, well, we're not going to say how many years ago that was because it's going to make me feel old. So, but yeah, keep an eye out for that. That'll be available coming up this Friday, June 28th. And that's all that and all episodes of the Book of Baseball are available exclusively at 8th Inning Pod /Book of Baseball. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Willie Mays and his career and his legacy and what he meant to the game of baseball and all that good stuff. But sort of connected, well, actually pretty connected to that, Carson, was this game that This past week, the Giants and Cardinals played at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama. It was the former home of the Birmingham Black Barons, which is where Willie Mays started his career in the Negro Leagues. First time ever MLB has played at Rickwood. And all in all, I mean, it was I caught most of the game. They had some really cool pregame festivities. They had, former Negro Leagues players. They even had some music. They had, and obviously it, involving the Giants and the team that Willie Mays spent basically his entire career with. But it I'm sure had things worked out differently, Willie Mays obviously would have been there, but it sort of, because of Willie's passing, it wound up turning into a tribute to the Negro Leagues, but also a tribute to him. And they did an incredible job.
Yeah, it was. Hollywood couldn't have wrote a better story than that. I mean,
yeah,
obviously the passing of Willie Mays was tragic, but kind of the cool thing that came out of it was, like you said, not only was it a tribute at this point to the Negro Leagues, but it was a tribute to Willie, and having the San Francisco Giants involved, like it brought a tear to the toughest baseball fan's eye.
Yeah, it was pretty emotional. I can't even imagine what it would have been, what it was like for the fans that were there. No, we pick on MLB, we pick on Rob Manfred and whatever, but for once they got it right. They absolutely nailed this. It was a heartfelt and what's the word I'm looking for? It was a heartfelt tribute to Willie Mays, and you just knew watching it that that Willie was smiling down. One, I feel a little bad about bringing this up but I have one. I mean, they nailed it, Carson. They absolutely nailed it. Every aspect. It turned out to be a great game. It was a 6-5 game. I mean, it would have been maybe a little sweeter if the Giants had won, considering, but because that was Willie's team. But I have one I have one very big bone to pick. Not with MLB, but with Fox, and I suspect you know where I'm going with this.
I think I do, but I want to see if I'm right.
Well, first of all, before I get to that, I will say, I don't know how many of you, Carson, or how many of you out there caught the pregame, and Fox had Reggie Jackson, the great Reggie Jackson, on, and I don't know if this was the plan, but he unintentionally provided us with like the best 10 minutes in television in a very long time. He was basically, you guys can watch it on YouTube, obviously, but basically Carson, Reggie was talking about how he was talking about the history of racism in baseball, and the racism that he experienced as a player, and how that basically how not a whole lot changed from the time of Willie Mays and playing in the Negro, and all the players that played in the Negro Leagues to his time, and how we're still not quite there in terms of equality. And it was I don't know if that was the plan, if that's what he was planned to talk about, but wow, really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, Um, and I saw a lot of people talking about what Reggie had to say on social media, and
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway was, this is not someone who played in like when the Negro Leagues were around.
No.
This is Mr. October. This is Reggie Jackson, who played in like the 70s and 80s. And
Yeah.
like the some of the things that he was saying just left me absolutely stunned. Like my jaw dropped at just all the crap he had to deal with long after baseball had become integrated.
Yeah. Yeah. He basically, and again, you guys can watch this, you know, and read about it at your leisure. But basically, his point was, okay, yes, this is this is a cool moment that MLB is playing a game at Rickwood, and it's a great tribute to the Negro Leagues and everything those players endured, and obviously a tribute to Willie Mays. But he was basically making the point that this isn't some sort of like kumbaya moment.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, um, yeah, it was really powerful stuff. Um, yeah, I was actually just reading. Uh, so yeah, he was talking about how it was difficult for him to return to Rickwood Field, because in 1967, before he got called up to the majors, he played with the Birmingham A's in the Double-A Southern League, as one of the few black players on the team, and the Birmingham A's played their home games at Rickwood. Um, so he was basically talking about how hard what it was like to be back there, and the awful, unspeakable things he endured while he was there. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I just pulled up this really good article about it on CNN. Um, that you guys can check out. Um, I just googled Reggie Jackson MLB Rickwood, and obviously, of course, you can watch his whole interview on YouTube. So yeah. Anyways, so that was a really powerful moment. Really made you think. Really really eye opening stuff. But I mentioned a bone I have to pick with Fox. Um, yeah. I I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if I was even. I probably shouldn't have been surprised by one of the other players that they decided to trot out for this thing. Um and I know, yeah, Fox. If anyone at Fox happens to be listening, I uh um so during for those of you who missed it, during Fox's pregame coverage of this, this special magical night at Rickwood Field. Um, and we're paying tribute to baseball's history. We're paying tribute to the Negro Leagues and all the players who played there, and paying tribute to Willie Mays, arguably one of the best baseball players of all time. And who does Fox decide to trot out onto their little set before this game, but none other than Barry Bonds? Now, Carson, I get it. I know Willie Mays was Barry Bonds' godfather, and I know that uh, Barry's dad, Bobby Bonds, and Willie Mays were close. They were teammates with the Giants. I get all that, but come on, like we're gonna trot out the biggest lying, cheating piece of crap in the history of baseball for this. I really, Fox, fucking really. Like, Carson, I want to know who at Fox thought this was a good idea. because that person they need to be fired yesterday.
And while I do understand where you're coming from, and while for a lot of us the name Barry Bonds is a very polarizing name, I don't think that they could have done this without him. Because like you said, his dad and Willie were very close on the Giants.
Yeah.
He is his godfather. Like you couldn't have really done this without him. The thing that irked me the most about his appearance was when he was asked about basically when Derek Jeter kind of lobbed him what turned out to be a softball question.
A meatball. Yeah. Yeah.
Of, hey, Barry, like, what would happen if you went against Satchel Paige?
Satchel Paige, yeah.
And Barry's answer was gone. Like, okay.
Right.
That's a wow. I mean, I'm glad you have that much confidence in yourself, Barry, but I think we're discrediting Satchel Paige a little bit here.
Yeah. I mean, as per usual, Barry Bonds can't help but make a complete ass of himself on TV. Yeah, really? You would have had a home run off I mean, yeah. Well, okay. Sure, easy to say when you're juiced up to the size of a freaking Mack truck. Yeah. I Tim and Carson, I hate that you're right about this. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can't like this is such a sticky situation because you're right. You can't have this thing and this tribute to Willie Mays without Bonds because of the connection, because Willie was his godfather, and because Willie and Bobby Bonds were teammates and friends. I get that, but can we just just I don't know. I don't know how to better handle that, but I don't know how they could have handled it better. Well, one, Jeter could have not lobbed him that meatball of a question, which he knew. I mean, come on. Like, you're telling me, I mean, Jeter had to know by asking him that Bonds was going to make some idiotic remark about Satchel Paige.
Yeah, you would at least think so.
I don't know if they could have, like, I don't know. Like, just have him in the crowd, like have him in the stands and like show him in that he's in the stands during the game. But did we really did they have to, you know, did they have to give him a platform? Did they have to give that just it makes me so mad. I'm sitting here and I'm watching this thing and I'm all excited and I'm tearing up and getting emotional, and then there he is, the biggest cheater in the history of baseball, Mr. Indicted on federal charges, the biggest stain on the history of baseball, the biggest disgrace in the history of baseball. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, Carson's right. Unfortunately, you couldn't do this thing without him because of the connection to Willie Mays. And I get that. And I'm not, I'm not trying to take away from, certainly not trying to take away from Willie Mays, or this, or the tribute to him. But I just, there wasn't you couldn't have done that. You couldn't have handled that better. That just really, really makes me mad. Even now, thinking about it, I'm just, really, Fox? Really? All right. But honestly, other than that, they absolutely nailed this thing, Carson. Carson, you there? Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Other than this massive faux pas, they nailed this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, and I liked how they were able to kind of keep both elements of the broadcast constantly in play. Not just the fact that it was, that this was the kind of turned into a tribute to Willie Mays, but they were still able to kind of keep things in perspective of, hey, look where we are. Like, we are at
Mm-hmm.
Rickwood. We are at the place where the Negro Leagues played, and they were able
Mm-hmm.
to recognize not only Willie Mays but some of the great players in the Negro Leagues, that came through as well. And all of this happening to AJ in a place where I think that we've kind of already kind of got lost in the shuffle, that the Negro League stats have officially been added into
Yep.
Major League Baseball history. So all
Yep.
of this kind of stuff coming together at this moment is so cool.
Yeah. No, it really is. Um, yeah. I mean, incorporating the Negro League stats into the Major League Baseball record books, um, that was obviously, that was a huge move and long overdue. Um, yeah. No, I really like what MLB has tried to do. They've finally, after all these years, uh sort of snapped out of it and realized, oh, hey, like the Negro Leagues and all the players that played there, and all the managers and everybody involved in the Negro Leagues, it's fine. It's time to give them their due, even though, they finally realized that they should have, been doing this all along. Yeah, and also during the game in the broadcast booth, Fox had Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro Leagues Museum, um, which is in Kansas City. Had him in the booth, and I thought was really cool is, I mean, they talked about, um Bob Kendrick talked about Carson. He talked about, obviously, the big name players, the ones everybody knows, the Willie Mays, Satchel Paige, and all the legends, all the household names that we know, that played in the Negro Leagues and played in Major League Baseball, but also, talked a lot about, told some really great, some really, heartfelt stories about players that most of us have never heard of before, who only played in the Negro Leagues. They never got a chance to play in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and again, like you said, like this was just another part of this that Fox absolutely nailed, was
Yes, they did.
because, at the end of the day, you can obviously, there are players that everybody's going to recognize who went from the Negro Leagues to the majors, but telling the true story of the Negro Leagues is telling the stories of everyone, not just those who were fortunate enough to make it to Major League Baseball, to get out of the Negro Leagues, but the ones who stayed, the ones who played their entire playing careers in the Negro Leagues, the ones who, like you said, most of us had never even heard those names until they
Nope.
were mentioned on the broadcast. That is how you tell the entire story of the Negro Leagues, and they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, they crushed it. Um, yeah, I would encourage everyone to check out the website for the Negro League Museum, which, like I said, is in Kansas City. I mean, it's essentially from what I've seen, it's essentially you know um, almost like a Hall of Fame type deal for the Negro Leagues. Actually, I got to think, I was like, well, Kansas City's not far. Um, you know, it's not all that far from where I am. I think a trip to Kansas City to the Negro Leagues Museum might be in order one of these days. But yeah, no, that was having Bob Kendrick in the booth and talking about all these players was a very cool moment. Because yeah, I mean the sad, the sort of sad truth is a lot of these guys, they played their whole careers in the Negro Leagues. And they were great players, and they never got the opportunity to play in Major League Baseball, which, Carson, brings us back to the whole brings us back to Major League Baseball incorporating the Negro League stats into its record books. That having heard about all these players and all these stories that Bob Kendrick told, I think makes the fact that MLB did that even more important. As another way to get these players' stories told.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, so MLB at Rickwood, a huge success. Overall, one big thing I would have changed, but other than that, now I don't know about you, Carson, but I haven't heard. I don't know if MLB plans to make this, if this was like a one-off, because the Cardinals and Giants only played that one game there, and then, I guess what they did was they had an off day to travel to go to St. Louis to finish the series. Kind of wish they had played the whole series at Rickwood, but I get it. I don't know if there's any future plans for MLB to play at Rickwood, but sign me up for an annual MLB game at Rickwood.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't do that if you're Major League Baseball. Now that they've done this one time, and maybe have and obviously having the Giants play in this game was significant because of Willie Mays, and even more important because of his passing. But I mean, have other teams play there. And also one of my other favorite parts about this thing was the Cardinals and the Giants wearing I think the Cardinals were wearing, I think it was the St. Louis Stars, and the Giants were what? The San Francisco Seals, I believe. I'd have to look that up, but in any case, the Cardinals and Giants wore authentic Negro Leagues jerseys, and that honestly, that might have been my favorite part because, sure, having them play at Rickwood and all the festivities and tributes and everything that went on were great, but having them wear Negro Leagues jerseys is that's just the cherry on top.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree.
Just another way to pay tribute to the history of the Negro Leagues and and all the players, and really, really cool stuff. So obviously, neither one of us, Carson, neither one of us got the chance to see Willie Mays play, live or in person, because he played and retired well before either one of us were even around. But I just kind of wanted to talk about our sort of our thoughts, on Willie's career and on the legacy he leaves behind. Because to me, we can sit here and debate, the greatest baseball player of all time, and obviously there was a guy named Babe Ruth, who was pretty okay at baseball, but Willie Mays has to at the very least has to be in that conversation.
No doubt about it. He should be in that conversation, and he deserves to be in that conversation. I mean, we'll get into his career
Mm-hmm.
accolades very shortly.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you talk about guys who not only, not only was he a great player on the field, but every single story that you will see, there couldn't have been a kinder person off of it also.
Yeah.
And Jackie Robinson obviously gets a lot of credit for breaking the color barrier, as he should. But Willie Mays, I think, also deserves some slice of that pie.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, Jackie Robinson deserves a ton of credit, um, for breaking the color barrier and enduring and going through everything he went through. Um, but yeah, I mean, the fact is though, Jackie Robinson opened the door, kicked the door down essentially, and paved the way for all the black players that followed, and one of the most prominent one of those was Willie Mays.
Yeah, absolutely. And Willie took that and literally and metaphorically ran with it.
Yes, he did. Yeah, we'll get into his impressive resume here in a second. But in reading up uh and doing research and stuff for this, yeah, Willie Mays, yeah, obviously a great player on the field, but you mentioned, I mean, this is a guy who, um, while he was uh with the Giants, when the Giants were still playing in New York and playing at the Polo Grounds, um, I mean, this was a guy who was playing stickball in the streets of Harlem with local kids. Um, Apparently played stickball 2 to 3 nights a week while the Giants were in town. Um, I that just blows me away. A major league, and obviously it was a different time and a different, and pro athletes now are they're like movie stars. But obviously it was a different time, and you know, I mean, a lot of things were different. Some in a good way and some in not a good way. But Carson, the thought of a major league baseball player playing stickball in the streets with local kids is just like, it's mind blowing.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
like speechless. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Can you imagine being one of those kids? And then I mean, the kids in Harlem must have uh kids in Harlem kids. I mean, the polo grounds where the Giants played was located in Harlem, so the Giants played in Harlem. But can you imagine being one of those kids, uh getting to play stickball with Willie Mays? Like, what? And then even like beyond that, growing up and being able to tell that story. Oh yeah, like Willie Mays used to play stickball with us. Like, what? Um, talk about Hollywood. Um, but yeah, that's nuts. And really speaks to, Carson, like you were mentioning about how Willie was not just a great baseball player, but um, by all accounts, one of the nicest, kindest people you'd ever want to meet, which um, is pretty rare nowadays, in terms of pro athletes. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously neither one of us got to see him play, but and we talked about, his. I I don't know, man. I think you still have to give I think you still have to give the nod to Babe Ruth, as the greatest player of all time. But man, Willie is right there with Babe Ruth. I think it's and actually in all the reading and research and everything I've done, I think that gap is a lot smaller than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. When I talk about the GOAT in basketball, I put Jordan and Kobe, 1 and 1A. I think I've got to do the same with baseball, because I mean, Babe Ruth is Babe Ruth, obviously, just like Jordan is Jordan. No, I'm not comparing Babe Ruth to Michael Jordan or vice versa. My point is, Babe Ruth is, for so long has been the undisputed GOAT, but folks, Willie Mays is right there. Right there. And beyond that, and that's just for his not just for his extremely unbelievably impressive accolades, which we'll rattle off here in a second, Carson, but also just the style and I mean, really, like, just the style that Willie Mays played baseball with. If you watch Willie Mays highlights, this dude was Willie Mays was an electrifying player. Maybe Carson, maybe the first example of a 5-tool player: hit for average, hit for power, speed, and and defense. He might have been the first 5-tool player in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he, like you said, he could literally do it all, and he's one of those players that not only could dazzle you from what he could do at the plate, but what he can do in the field. And those type of players who can do it both ways and are the true 5-tool players, they are not very common in today's game.
No, they're not, but I feel like, obviously the players now are just, they're pure athletic machines. They're so athletic, and they're so well trained, and they're so well conditioned, and they just, I feel like sometimes the things that we see players now do, sometimes I feel like we take it for granted. But back when Willie Mays was playing, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it was like to go to the ballpark and see this dude play.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
I mean, imagine you're sitting at the Polo Grounds in in 1950 whatever, and here's this player who, oh, by the way, is one of probably one of few black players on the team. Because sure, the color barrier had been broken by that point, but it still wasn't, it still wasn't all that common yet, unfortunately. And here comes this player who can literally do it all. I mean, I don't know, man. I might go as far to say that, I mean, I'm fairly certain that Willie Mays was the first, what we would call now a 5-tool player. I'm pretty sure that wasn't a term used back then. Willie Mays might have been baseball's first superstar.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Absolutely.
Yeah, he might have been that first player that, when the Giants were in town, and obviously back then it was different. Like, American League played American League, National League teams, and that was it. There was no interleague play. There was no balanced schedule, and obviously there were a lot fewer teams in baseball. But Willie Mays might have been the first player where, if you were a baseball fan and the Giants were in town, the Giants are coming to town. We have to go see Willie Mays play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously it was different back then. The TV was, sort of in its infancy, and obviously no internet, no social media, and not a lot of coverage. I mean, the majority of baseball coverage then was games were on the radio, and coverage was in the newspaper, and that was pretty much it. So, but yeah, I was just looking at this. All these. I mean, some of the names of players and baseball figures who recognized the talent and the influence and the style of Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, Duke Snyder, Don Zimmer, Felipe Alou. I mean, this is just ridiculous. His wins above replacement, which is obviously that's a relatively new thing. But had they been keeping track of WAR back then, Willie Mays' WAR would rank 5th all time, 3rd among position players. Unbelievable. Carson, I would go as far. The way Willie Mays played the game, the style and the flair and the the electricity that he played with. The effect of that is still influencing baseball today. I mean, think about how many players. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's probably not too many players. Well, I don't know. I mean, there may be some modern players who, I mean, they obviously didn't grow up watching Willie Mays, but think about all the players who grew up watching Willie Mays, who emulated his, or tried to at least emulate his play style. Like, I bet if you surveyed Major League Baseball players, I bet if you asked 100 players, I bet all 100 of them would be like, yeah, I tried to model my game on Willie Mays.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, he's one of those players where if you're a kid watching baseball, there's no way you didn't want to emulate your game after him.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the same conversation in that aspect with, 90s kid, and I can vouch that any of us who ever stepped on a baseball field in the 90s, we were going out there trying to be Ken Griffey Jr., because Ken Griffey Jr. was sort of like our generation's, Willie Mays. But I mean, kids watching Willie Mays, or I guess, following Willie Mays back in the 50s and 60s, were, they went out there and were trying to emulate Willie Mays, and obviously, some of those kids grew up to play Major League Baseball themselves. But yeah, I mean, the fact that his influence is still being felt in baseball now in 2024 is I don't think incredible does it justice.
No, not at all.
So that's sort of his that's sort of Willie's off the field legacy, and we'll talk more about that. But his man, what a resume. So we'll just rattle through this and then sort of reflect on it, I guess. So these are Willie Mays' career numbers. 301 batting average, over 3,000 hits, 3,293 career hits, 660 home runs, 1,909 runs batted in, 339 stolen bases. And these are his These are settle down, get comfy, folks, because these are Willie Mays his highlights in his career highlights and awards. A 24-time All-Star, World Series champion in 1954 with the Giants, 2-time National League MVP, National League Rookie of the Year, a 12-time Gold Glove Award winner. He won the Roberto Clemente Award in 1971, which, oh, by the way, that was the first time it was awarded. He was the National League batting champion in 1954. He led the National League in home runs 4 times. Led the National League in stolen bases 4 times. Hit 4 home runs in 1 game on April 30th, 1961. His number 24 is obviously retired by the San Francisco Giants. His number 24 is also retired by the New York Mets, where he played in his later career. He's on the San Francisco Giants Wall of Fame. Again, no surprise there. He was named to the Major League Baseball All-Century team, and the Major League Baseball All-Time team. And oh, by the way, also, obviously, a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 1979 with 94.7% of the vote. I don't know what else to say about this. I don't know what else to say about that resume other than wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm speechless, ladies and gentlemen. I am without speech.
Yeah, first of all, let's just talk about the fact of to whoever did not vote for Willie Mays.
I
What
know,
are you doing?
right?
Like, what are you doing? Really?
What were you thinking?
Really? How this guy wasn't a unanimous MVP, unanimous Hall of Famer?
Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Absolutely beyond me. At least he got in on his first attempt. I'm happy for that. But how he wasn't unanimous is absolutely beyond me.
Can you imagine if he hadn't gotten in on his first attempt?
There would have been riots in the streets.
Yeah.
And fair. But yeah, like AJ said, what else needs to be said about those numbers? Like, are you kidding me? Willie Mays. There's very much a reason why this guy is considered to be, and very well should be considered to be, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, to ever play the game. Like, I'm speechless. We're both speechless.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. No, I'm just kidding. No, and maybe obviously all of these things are impressive. But a couple of things jump out to me. One, like we were talking about the Hall of Fame, and obviously, he did get in on his first ballot. So elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility, in 1979. He was voted in on 409 of the 432 ballots cast. So, Carson, that means 23 voters did not vote for Willie Mays.
Wild.
What? Who are these 23 people, and what the hell is wrong with you? Actually, this is kind of funny. New York Daily News columnist Dick Young, who, if any of you are not familiar with Dick Young, one of the all-time greats sports writers, basically he worked for the New York Daily News for something crazy like 45 years. Yeah, he's a legend. This is what Dick Young had to say about Willie Mays not getting 100% of the vote. Quote, "If Jesus Christ were to show up with his old baseball glove, some guys wouldn't vote for him. He dropped the cross 3 times, didn't he?" Love it. Yeah, seriously, I don't know what you 23 people were thinking. And then this was Willie's induction speech, or at least part of it. Quote, "What can I say? This country is made up of a great many things. You can grow up to be what you want. I chose baseball, and I loved every minute of it. I give you one word, love. It means dedication. You have to sacrifice many things to play baseball. I sacrificed a bad marriage, and I sacrificed a good marriage. But I'm here today because baseball is my number one love." Wow. Yeah, all right. Who's chopping onions? I mean, dude even nailed his induction speech. But yeah, I mean, a few things jump out at me about his, his stats and his highlights. But Carson, maybe the biggest, well, I mean, first of all, 24-time All-Star. Um okay. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you play 20, let's see. So he started with the Giants in 1951 and retired with the Mets in 1973. So 22, wait, that can't be right. 22 seasons, but okay, that math doesn't. Okay. But maybe the most impressive thing about all this is the longevity, which we don't really see anymore. Guys don't play 20 plus years anymore for the most part.
Yeah, no, they do not for the most, and for the most part, you see a pretty rapid decline in their skills. But Father Time tried to serve Willie Mays a knuckleball, and he hit that thing out of the park.
I mean, 24 times All-Star. That's staggering. 2-time MVP, 12-time Gold Glover. I mean, we've been talking about his place in the pantheon of, greatest players of all time. 12-time Gold Glover for me, that seals it as the best center fielder of all time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's. I mean, sure, there have been some other great center fielders, but 12 Gold Gloves is. I mean, all of this is ridiculous. Yeah, led the National League in home run 4 times, led it in stolen bases 4 times. Kind of like we said, basically the first example of a 5-tool player. And maybe his most famous moment is the catch he made in the World Series. But yeah, just to kind of run through some of the so he started his career with the Birmingham Black Barons in 1948. By the way, when he was still in high school, which obviously would never happen now, but scouted by the Braves and Dodgers out of high school. The Giants, though, were the ones that ended up signing him. Signed to a $4,000 contract with the Giants. Made his major league debut in 1951. 1951 NL Rookie of the Year. How about this? This is one of those cool little history nuggets from baseball that reminds us, I guess, Carson, of why we love baseball so much. So the 1951 World Series, which some would say was one of the best World Series ever played, it was the Giants who were the New York Giants at that point. So this is before they moved to San Francisco. It was the Giants and the Yankees. So it was a crosstown rivals in the World Series. And I believe it was in the, hang on, I've got to check. I think it was the yes. So the 1951 World Series, Yankees and Giants, which must have been just pure insanity back then. Now, if that happened, we'd be like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. But back then, that must have been just that must have been insanity in New York City. But before the Giants faced the Yankees in the World Series, they had to beat another New York team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, for the 1951 National League pennant, which was clinched by the Giants' Bobby Thompson, the shot heard around the world, his dramatic walk-off home run. But Willie Mays, Carson, Willie Mays was in the on-deck circle. He was on deck when Bobby Thompson hit that famous home run. I mean, talk about having a front row seat to history.
Yeah, no kidding. That's not many better spots than that.
Like, here's Willie Mays in the on-deck circle, getting ready to bat, and then, Bobby Thompson comes up, hits this home run, hits the walk-off home run. The Giants win everyone knows the famous call, the Giants win the pennant, Giants win the pennant. Everyone knows that. But, like, Willie Mays came that close to, maybe that being his moment. And then, unfortunately, the Giants went on to lose to the Yankees in the World Series. And another cool history nugget, when the Giants faced the Yankees in the 51 World Series, Carson, Willie Mays got to play against his idol, Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, which is, man, is that cool.
Man, I mean, all these names, man. Let's just real quick. Let's pull up the 1951 World Series, because usually they list, Hall of Famers who participated in the 1951 World Series. Wow. For the Yankees, Casey Stengel, Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Phil Rizzuto, and for the Giants, Leo Durocher, the famous manager, and of course Willie Mays. I'm pretty sure there's these Berra, DiMaggio, Mantle, Mays, obviously. I'm pretty sure that some of these guys were pretty okay at baseball.
Yeah, just a little bit, I think.
Are you kidding me? How lucky were these fans? Like, I mean, obviously they didn't realize the historical significance of this at the time, because to them it was just, going to a baseball game, going to watch the World Series at Yankee Stadium or at the Polo Grounds. But how unbelievably, ridiculously, indecently lucky were these fans to get to watch all these absolute freaking legends play in the World Series? Damn.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Wow. Okay. Jealous. Like, unbelievably jealous. And I'm not, Carson, we're not trying to take away from the talent of modern players.
No, of course not. We would never even attempt to try to do that.
No, because I mean we're lucky in our own right as fans in 2024 with some of the players that we get to watch. But my God. So the longevity for Willie Mays. And then, oh, by the way, we were talking about his off the field life and how, I mean, I don't know about you, man, but I've never heard a bad story about Willie Mays ever.
No, never.
I don't think I've ever even heard I've never heard anyone have a bad word to say about him. And a lot of that is because of his off the field, off the field, he was active in the community and giving of his time. And we talked about playing playing stickball with the kids, when he was when the Giants were, playing at the Polo Grounds in Harlem. And like many players of the time, like a lot of players at the time, he was drafted into the military in 1951, right around the time of the Korean War. Drafted at the end of the 1951 season. Now, this is something, Carson, that modern players will never have to deal with, knock on wood. But I can't even imagine what it would have been like. So here you are, you're Willie Mays. You're. I mean, I don't know if superstar was even in the like lexicon back then, but here you are, Willie Mays. You're a superstar baseball player. You've just finished, you lost the World Series, but you've just finished playing in the World Series against your baseball idol, Joe DiMaggio. And now you find out that you've been drafted into the Army. And you have to, you're not going to be playing baseball for the foreseeable future. And a lot of players went through that, Ted Williams, obviously everyone knows. But I can't even imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah, can't even imagine whatsoever the absolute just whiplash between those two things happening.
Yeah. I mean, and not the least of which is the fact that, you've been drafted. Again, none of us will ever have to deal with that. Hopefully. So drafted into the Army at the end of the 51 season. Served the Army for 3 years. Fortunately for Willie Mays, he did not serve any time in combat. Discharged in 1954, rejoined the Giants. And then, no big deal. So drafted in the Army, serves 3 years in the Army, comes out of the Army, rejoins the Giants, Carson, and gets voted to the first All-Star team and wins the National League MVP.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Like, what? Okay. And that same year is the year that he makes his iconic, I don't know about you, but to me, Willie's catch in Game 1 of the World Series, the over-the-shoulder basket catch, probably the most iconic catch in the history of baseball.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I don't think many people would. I mean, and honestly, I can't. Well, yeah, I mean, there have been some others. There have been some great catches, but yeah, no. That one's got to be the most iconic. Oh, by the way, fun little baseball history nugget here. Carson, Willie Mays learned how to make that over-the-shoulder basket catch from one of his buddies that he was in the Army with, because apparently they used to play baseball on the base, at the base that he served at. Learned how to do that from one of his Army buddies.
Yeah.
So shout out to whoever that was, for teaching him how to do that. Makes the catch in Game 1 of the 54 World Series. The Giants went on to sweep the then Cleveland Indians. That was their last championship before they moved to San Francisco. And at that point, the 1954 Indians had the single season wins record with 111 wins. Again, no internet, no social media, pretty limited coverage in terms of baseball at the time, Carson. But imagine for a moment that a team wins 111 games now, and then gets swept in the World Series. The internet would lose its mind.
Yeah. If social media had existed, Willie Mays would be trending just about every single minute of every day.
Right. No kidding. I can see it now. Hashtag the catch. The internet would lose its mind, and Carson, you and I, we would lose our minds if a 111 win team got swept in the World Series. I mean, it was bad enough for the 2001 Mariners, who won 116 games and then lost to the Yankees. But even that wasn't a sweep. Wow. Yeah. So the Giants moved to San Francisco in 1957. And in 1959, Willie Mays became the highest paid player in baseball when he signed a $75,000 contract with the Giants. Now it's obviously, players are signing contracts worth millions and millions of dollars, Carson, but $75,000 in 1959, that was, I don't know what the exchange, what the conversion rate or exchange rate or whatever you call it was, but $75,000 in 1959 was that was a lot of money.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't know what that would translate to in today's money, but it was all everybody out there needs to know is that's a good amount of money.
I mean, Willie Mays must have felt like a millionaire.
Oh, 100%.
But the point about the $75,000 contract is, good on the Giants for recognizing what they had in Willie Mays and realizing, okay, this guy is a once in a generation talent. There's no one else like him, and let's pay him and show him that, show him how much we appreciate him and how much we want him to be a Giant. Because that kind of stuff just doesn't really, sometimes it happens, but it doesn't happen a lot anymore. Of course, this was, again, talking about, the time difference. This was the time before free agency was a thing, which to us in 2024 is a completely alien, foreign concept.
Yeah, alien, foreign, out of the box, whatever
Right.
word you want to use. It's not a concept that gets talked about very much anymore.
No, this was a time when players, you were drafted, you signed with the team and you stayed with that team. Sure, players were traded, but free agency wasn't a thing yet, folks. $75,000 contract. The Giants moved to Candlestick Park in 1960, which they played in for years. Obviously, Candlestick Park, one of the iconic stadiums of all time in sports. And then Willie Mays made his last World Series appearance in 1962, where the Giants lost in 7 games to the Yankees. And then that started, the beginning of the end. But let's we've been talking about the longevity and all the things Willie Mays did, but Carson, I don't know about you, man, but it is a damn shame to me that Willie Mays only got to play in the World Series 3 times.
Yeah, one of those players that we talk about of, you wish you would have been able to see them play more meaningful baseball.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are great players who have played in the World Series and never
won it.
Never won a World Series. There have been guys who have never even made it to a World Series that have been some of the greatest to play the game. But it's just one of those things where you would have loved to see him play in more World Series, win more World Series championships. But at the end of the day, I think Willie ended up being a pretty happy guy being able to win a World Series.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least he got to win one at least. Yeah, the list of players, I don't know, call me biased, but the name that always springs to mind for me for greatest players who never won the World Series is Ted Williams.
Yeah.
And only got to played in the World Series. How many times did uh did Ted Williams only get to play in the World Series once? Let's see. When did he retire? Yeah, Ted Williams only got to play in the World Series once. Wow, that's just and that was in 1946. And the Red Sox lost to the Cardinals in 7 games. But yeah, I mean, yeah, at least Willie got to win one. But from everything we've heard and everything we've read and everything we've seen about Willie Mays Carson, and you know, I read his part of his induction speech to the Hall of Fame earlier. I mean, obviously, winning a championship makes a career, you know, that much sweeter. It's sort of the cherry on top. But I feel like William would have been just as happy and would have loved playing baseball just as much, even if he had never played or played in or won the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those stats speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and he had a very, very obvious, clear, just passion and love for the game of baseball. So, yeah, so made his last World Series appearance in 1962. The Giants lost in 7 games to the Yankees. And then that sort of brings us into the, you know, the sort of twilight of his career. He won his second NL MVP award in 1965. The Sporting News named him the player of the decade for the 60s in the Sporting News. Not really a surprise there, but I was kind of just thinking about all the great players in the 60s that they had to choose from, and yet Willie Mays was the one who stood out for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you look at, let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, these are just some of the players who played in the 60s. I mean, Willie Mays, obviously, Sandy Koufax, Hank Aaron, Frank Robinson, Bob Gibson, Carl Yastrzemski, Juan Marichal, Don Drysdale, Harmon Killebrew, Willie McCovey. I mean, this list is ridiculous. Orlando Cepeda, Mickey Mantle, Roberto Clemente. Wow, this list reads like a who's who. But my point is, Carson, out of all these, I mean, let's just say it, legends who played during that decade, whoever the, you know, voters or panel or whatever, the Sporting News, they looked at all those players and they picked Willie Mays out of all of them. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I mean, to have
Wow.
to compete with the likes of some of those guys and to still get named player of the decade, incredible.
Yeah. And then in 1971 won the first ever Roberto Clemente Award for community service, although at the time it wasn't referred to the Roberto Clemente Award yet. They called it something else, which, Carson, I didn't know the award existed. The award existed before. The award already existed when Roberto Clemente tragically died in the plane crash. And then they named it after him.
Yeah.
They renamed it after him, I should say. Apparently it was called the Commissioner's Award. Before that, for charity work and community service, and then after Roberto Clemente tragically passed away in the plane crash in 1972. So it was the next year. They baseball, rightfully so, decided to rename it as the Roberto Clemente Award because of all the charity work and contributions to the community that Roberto Clemente made. So that's pretty cool. Willie Mays got his is in the history books as the first one to ever win the award. Yeah, and then we're really into the twilight of his career at this point. He was traded to the Mets in 1972. Hit his final home run, which put him at 660 on August 17th, 1973. And oh, by the way, in that same season, almost got back to the World Series. Almost. Wait a minute. Okay. So the 1962 World Series was not his last period. That was his last World Series appearance with the Giants because the Mets went to the 1973 World Series against the Oakland A's after beating Pete Rose and the Reds in the NLCS. Carson, I'm pretty sure those early 70s Reds teams were pretty good.
Yeah, they weren't bad, you know.
What was that nickname they gave them? The what was it? The Big Red Machine, right? Wasn't that the
something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
With Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, and Joe Morgan, and my God, what was the manager's name? Oh my God, I can't remember. My God, what was his? Sparky Anderson. Wow. Reds fans, I apologize profusely to all of you for forgetting Sparky Anderson's name. Wow. Only one of the greatest managers of all time. But yeah. So the Mets get to the 73 World Series after beating the Reds in the NLCS, where they faced off against another juggernaut of a team in the Oakland A's with players like Raleigh Fingers. And Willie Mays, Willie Mays' last hit. Man, this is just, I mean, if we didn't know better, if we didn't know that Willie Mays had been a real person and a real baseball player, we would think this was a Hollywood, a creation of Hollywood. So in his last season, his team beats Pete Rose and the Reds in the NLCS. And his last hit, Willie Mays' last hit, and his final at bat came in Game 3 of the World Series. And oh, by the way, his last hit, Carson, an RBI single off of Raleigh Fingers, who again, someone I'm pretty sure was pretty okay at baseball.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad from what I know of him.
Only one of the best closers of all time. Best relief pitchers and one of the best pitchers of all time. Geez, I mean, really, talk about going out in style.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Oh. Hey Willie, who did you get your last hit against? Oh, no big deal. I just hit an RBI single off Raleigh Fingers in the World Series. No big fuss. Wow. Unbelievably ridiculous. And then we talked about elected to Cooperstown in 1979. In his first year of eligibility, we talked about that with the votes and the 23 knuckleheads who somehow looked at their ballot and thought, yeah, no, I'm not going to vote for this Mays guy. And then post-playing career, served as a hitting instructor with the Mets, and later a special assistant to the general manager with the Giants. His number 24, like we mentioned, is obviously retired by the Giants, and Carson was just retired. just a couple years ago by the Mets, right? Or last year?
I think so, yeah.
I've got it here somewhere. Number 24 retired by the New York Mets in 2022. Okay, so a couple of years ago. That's a really cool story. We'll get to that in a second. How his number came to be retired by the Mets. And as if he hadn't left enough of a mark and a great enough legacy on baseball. Willie Carson also helped muster public support for the Giants to build what would initially be Pacific Bell Park, which is now, what is it now? Oracle Park, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but helped generate support, helped muster public support for the Giants to build a new stadium when they decided to leave Candlestick Park, because he hadn't done enough for baseball.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hadn't done enough for baseball. Hadn't done enough for the Giants. Yeah. So yeah, here guys, I'm gonna help you get a new stadium built. Now where is the? I just had it. Oh, man, there's a really cool story about why the Mets, how it came to be that the Mets retired Willie's number. Oh yeah, here it is. So, the former owner of the Mets, who was the owner of the Mets at the time, Joan Payson. Oh, by the way, because we haven't had enough history in this thing. Oh, by the way, Joan Payson, the first woman to ever own a major league team in North America, not just Major League Baseball, North America. She was instrumental in bringing Willie Mays back to New York, back to his baseball roots, where he started his career with the Giants. She was instrumental in bringing him to the Mets, and really cool. And after bringing him back to the Mets, made a promise to him that the Mets would retire his number.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so he had his number 24 retired in 2022 during Old Timers Day. And I mean, really, like, when you think about it, how could the Mets not retire his number, even though, sure, he only spent the last few years of his career there. But I mean, how could you not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
like,
how couldn't you?
Yeah. I don't care if he played one game for your team, like, which the whole number retirement thing got me thinking, Carson. It got me, so obviously, baseball, Jackie Robinson's number 42 is retired across baseball, for his breaking the color barrier and everything that went with that. In hockey, Wayne Gretzky's number 99 is, although I think Gretzky's 99 being retired is you follow hockey a lot more closely. Is that like an official thing by the NHL, or is that sort of an unspoken, like, nobody's going to wear 99?
As far as I know, it's an official thing.
Is it? Okay. So the NHL said, that's it, we're retiring Gretzky's 99. Nobody's ever going to wear it again. Okay. Because I know nobody's worn 99s as Gretzky retired. So I wasn't sure if that was, like what baseball did with Jackie Robinson. And I mean, if you ask me, Michael Jordan's number 23 should be retired across the NBA, but that's neither here nor there. But the number, when I was reading the story about the Mets retiring Willie's number, it got me thinking that would you be in favor of, because of all he accomplished and his legacy and the influence he left on baseball, and the cultural impact, which we haven't even gotten to the cultural stuff yet, but how do you feel about baseball, retiring Willie Mays' number 24 the way they retired Jackie Robinson's 42? Because I got to be honest, I hadn't really thought about it before, but I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
I mean, I don't know if they would actually do it. But I feel like, especially now that he's no longer with us, I can't think of a better tribute that Major League Baseball a better way they could honor Willie than retiring his number.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's kind of sad. It's kind of unfortunate that somebody passing away that's a lot of times that's what it takes, for them to be recognized and honored. But yeah, I don't know. It's just all this reading and research and stuff that I've been doing lately just got me thinking. And again, I don't know if baseball would actually do it, but I don't know, just something to think about. So that ladies and gentlemen, is Willie Mays, and just, I mean, there's so much more. There's so many stories that I would encourage all of you to seek out on your own. Story of when he took a job at a casino in Atlantic City and baseball, and I don't know how many people know this, cousin. I didn't even know this. As much of a baseball geek as I am, Willie Mays was actually briefly banned from baseball in 1979 because he took a job as a special assistant to the casino's president of a Bally's casino in Atlantic City.
Huh. Bally screwing people. Where have I seen that?
Yeah, right. No kidding.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, there's so much more about Willie Mays. Willie Mays was actually a fun little, speaking of things that we didn't really, didn't really know about Willie Mays. I was not aware of this until I heard it on the radio the other day. Willie Mays actually spent a little bit of time right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the minor league affiliate of the Giants, the Minneapolis Millers, for a brief spell before getting called up.
Wow. No, I didn't know that either. Damn. Well, there you go. That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool.
And his house, the house that he was living in, still stands in Minneapolis.
Oh wow. Is it like a private residence, or did they turn it into some sort of like museum or something?
As far as I know, it's just it's a residence, but
just a private residence, yeah.
But I've seen people going there and like taking pictures, and
yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Tony Oliva kind of talked about Willie Mays as well, and so that was a neat little connection, because I never knew that he spent time up here. So
that is cool. Yeah, so yeah, briefly banned from baseball, and then promptly reinstated because he didn't have anything to do with any kind of gambling or anything. He was basically a greeter at the casino. So yeah, special assistants to the general manager of the Giants, we mentioned. So just real quick to sort of wrap up here, some of the off the field cultural stuff. Willie Mays met with several U.S. presidents. I mean, this is just like I said before, Carson. If we didn't know Willie Mays was a real person and a real baseball player, we would think he was a fictional character because some of this stuff is just like in 1976, when Gerald Ford was president, invited to the White House state dinner honoring Queen Elizabeth II. So he quite literally met royalty. T-ball commissioner during the White House T-ball tournament in 2006. Flew on Air Force One with Barack Obama to St. Louis for that year's All-Star game in 2009. Okay. Got to fly on Air Force One. All right. And then 6 years later, honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is, obviously a great honor. 2017, Major League Baseball renamed the World Series MVP award to the Willie Mays World Series MVP award. Yeah, good move. Obviously never had the opportunity to go to college, but has honorary degrees from Yale, Dartmouth, and San Francisco State. And this was some of the coolest stuff that I found. Apparently Willie Mays was a kind of a staple on TV in the 60s and 70s. This is really funny stuff. Made multiple appearances as a mystery guest on the long-running game show What's My Line, which, oh, by the way, if none of you have ever watched the old What's My Line reruns, they're fantastic television and really funny stuff. Yeah, several appearances on What's My Line. Appeared on 3 episodes of the Donna Reed Show, which was a big show back then. During the 60s, appeared on The Dating Game. That I need to find that because that's got to be just must-see TV. And also made a guest appearance on Bewitched.
Huh.
Yeah. Go figure. NBC aired an hour-long documentary titled A Man Named Mays in 1963, telling the story of his life, obviously. 1972, Mays voiced himself in the animated fictional special Willie Mays and the Say Hey Kid, produced by the legendary Rankin Bass Productions. Everybody knows Rankin Bass. They made all those stop-motion what do you call it? All the stop motion like Christmas classics that we all watch every year.
Bangers.
Yes, bangers, all of them. Charles M. Schultz, comic strip Peanuts, mentioned Mays numerous times. And this might be my favorite of all these little nuggets because I'm a huge nerd. The plot of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode In the Cards, which aired in 1977. Yeah, right. 1997 with a story, but it obviously takes place in 23 whatever in the distant future. Centers on the story of Captain Sisko, who was the captain of Deep Space Nine. For those of you who don't speak nerd, centers on the son of Captain Sisko, who Captain Sisko was a several times noted in the show, huge baseball fan. Captain Sisko's son attempting to obtain as a gift for his father a vintage 1951 Willie Mays rookie card. Yeah, cool stuff. He's got songs written about him, and everyone's, well, I don't know, Carson, I don't know about you, but my favorite baseball song of all time, Center Field by John Fogerty, which is played in, pretty much every baseball stadium in the world, of course, mentions Willie Mays as well as Ty Cobb and Joe DiMaggio. So that's a big one. But yeah. What a like just an absolute an incredible life, an incredible career. I mean, an incredible career, but beyond that, even more so. Um, just an incredible life that Willie Mays led, and and now he's playing on the big ball field in the sky.
Yeah, and obviously, of course, we can talk about the man he was, but there's also there's a family that's hurting.
Yes. Yep.
So obviously, our thoughts and prayers go out to the Mays family,
Yep.
to all of his former teammates, to his fans. But at the end of the day, there's a family still here that is missing a great man today.
Yeah. And honestly, I woke up, quite literally woke up to the news the other day, and we were talking about before how, obviously neither one of us got to see Willie Mays play in person, obviously, but and didn't know him outside of what we read and saw and heard and whatnot. But I'll admit, Carson, when I read the news about Willie the other day, it hit me pretty hard. I got pretty emotional.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we've talked at length. One of the greatest, not only baseball players, but one of the greatest humans.
Yep.
So, to the Say Hey Kid, thank you, goodbye,
Yes.
and say hey to all the greats you're playing with for us in the big field in the sky.
Right. That's got to be one hell of a ball game going on up there.
Oh my God.
This is seriously Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, DiMaggio, like wow. Hank Aaron. Yeah. I mean, I'm not even remotely ready to go, but damn, what I wouldn't give to be watching that game.
And Bill Walton on commentary.
Yeah, Bill Walton on exactly. No, but yeah, I'm glad you said that, about Willie's family and his friends and former teammates and everybody, because sometimes we all do it. We all forget that these famous people, whether it be athletes or actors or whoever, that they're more than just what we see as public figures. They're people with friends and family. Yeah, I don't think I can say it much better than you just did. But and we talked about it. We talked about all his stats and his accomplishments on the field and all he did for the community off the field. And it's maybe the most incredible part of it all is all of this, the career, the stats, the accolades, the accomplishments, everything. It all started in a company town, a company mining town in Alabama. So for anyone to go from being from such, I mean, for anyone to go from pretty much the humblest beginnings that you can begin with, being born and growing up in a small town in Alabama, and dealing, and even more so maybe dealing with all the things that a dealing with all the hatred and all the racism and all the derision and the threats of violence and all the awful, terrible, deplorable things that were unfortunately part of our well, now you know what? I was gonna say that were part of our culture, but unfortunately are still part of our culture, even in 2024. But my point is, for someone to start out at with such humble beginnings and to not just endure all those things, but to thrive, to survive them and to thrive despite them, and to go on to become, let's face it, a legend. A legend on the baseball field, a legend off the baseball field, an incredible human being. For someone to go from where Willie Mays started all those years ago, and to end to end up where he ended up, is incredible. Doesn't do it justice. But Carson, for my money, Willie Mays was a lot of things. He was a baseball player. He was active in his community. He was a husband. He was a friend. He was a teammate. But to go from where he started to where he ended up, for my money, Willie Mays is a goddamn astronaut as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the one of those guys that will there's not a whole lot of people I feel like now that his legacy will not be soon forgotten or will live on, but Willie Mays is certainly one of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's Willie Mays. Even though, I mean, we just, everything we've talked about just barely scratches the surface. I would strongly encourage all of you to, get on your computers and your phones and your tablets or whatever, and dive. Don't fall down the Willie Mays rabbit hole. Dive down the Willie Mays rabbit hole. Read and watch everything you can about him and about his life. It's quite a story. But yeah, that's Willie Mays, and yeah, we've lost a baseball player, but we've lost a great baseball player, but we've lost more than that. We've lost a wonderful person and a wonderful human being. And but hey, that's the price of admission for this crazy ride. We all have to get off this crazy ride at some point. We only get to ride it once. And Carson, it's moments like this, and I don't really know how to explain it. I don't know why it works this way. Maybe it's just the way human beings work, but it always seems to be moments like this when we lose somebody, either somebody famous and somebody, a public figure and a celebrity, let's face it, like Willie Mays, or somebody we know ourselves. But it always seems like it's moments like this are the ones that sort of snap us back and remind us how lucky we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So yeah. So for all of you listening, watching, whatever, keep that in mind. And I know, everyone is fighting their own battle. Everyone deals with their own struggles. But try to just take a moment, stop and smell the roses. Remember how lucky you are. You know, tell and show the people in your life. Tell them that you care about them. Show them that you care about them. Spend time with them. Do stuff with them. Spend as much time as you can with them, because when it's over, and that's it. And so make the most out of it. We all would do well to make the most out of it while we're here. So yeah. Anyways, we're getting pretty deep here, but no, that's Willie Mays. Again, Google, watch, YouTube, whatever. That little shameless self promotion. I wrote what I hope was a piece for Two Strike Count that did justice to Willie and his memory. And obviously we hope that this episode has done the same. But we are catch us live every Sunday or thereabouts on YouTube and Twitter, on demand anytime at Linktree/8th Inning Stretch. Follow us at 8th Inning Pod on Twitter, and for more, including our thrice weekly newsletter blog, Two Strike Count, which you can subscribe to for free and get delivered right to your inbox. Oh, excuse me. In our original baseball documentary series, The Book of Baseball, head to 8thinningpod.com. Help us continue making the best indie baseball content this side of home plate by supporting the show, either using the QR code on your screen or at 8thinningpod.com/donate. And if you are watching/listening on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Next week, Carson, we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back with our, all our usual stuff. The mailbag and buy or sell and all the stuff you guys enjoy. Don't forget to keep an eye out this Friday for a all new episode of the Book of Baseball. Available exclusively at 8th Inning Pod /Book of Baseball. And I guess that's all we got for you. That's a wrap on another episode, Carson, but a very a special episode for us.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. We felt it was important to honor Willie, and
Yep.
hopefully you guys did too.
Yeah, and hopefully we did justice. Hopefully we did right by the Say Hey Kid. That's all we got for you guys. Thank you as always so much for tuning in, for watching, listening to the live stream, for listening to the show on demand, for reading Two Strike Count, for subscribing, for watching Book of Baseball, all of it, all of the stuff you guys do to support us. We could do it without you. We will be back with you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, with a, like I said, back to our sort of regular format, whatever you want to call it. But in the meantime, please remember to take care of yourselves. And that includes not just your physical health, but your mental health too, because that is equally important. But take care of yourselves and take care of each other.